just hours away now from the face-off that many believe could be the most important moment of this 2024 campaign. The candidates have 90 minutes to debate. No studio audience. CNN's Dana Bash and Jake Tapper posing the questions. Two men who don't like each other, making history tonight. A former president trying to get his old job back and debating the man who took it from him. The national polls tell us this is a very close race, now inside 19 weeks to Election Day. The battleground state polls, though, tell us there's a slight but real advantage for Donald Trump when it comes to assembling that path to 270 electoral votes. According to one new poll, more than 70% of voters plan to tune in tonight. So it goes without saying, every moment could matter. CNN's MJ Lee is here ahead of the president in Atlanta. MJ, the president's scheduled to get on Air Force One a little bit later this hour for the trip south. What are you hearing about the final debate preps and final strategy?
Well, John, it really is calm before the storm right now. The president is still at Camp David with only a few of his advisors that are still there, and it's unlikely that there would be any mock debates today. Over the last week, we've really tried to do a lot of reporting to try to get everyone inside Camp David in all of the days of debate preparations, and that's not just us being sort of nosy political reporters. The reason that we have cared about all of the details down to what the team has been eating, who has been playing who in the mock debates, all of the issues that the Biden team has been preparing for is because it all comes together to try to capture that full picture of what the Biden team believes is really at stake tonight. And the Biden team's debate camp ethos has really come down to leave nothing to chance, because every issue that they have been preparing for, every version of Donald Trump that they have been preparing for, they've gone to these lengths because it all comes down to the fact that they believe tonight is really the best chance that President Biden has to make his case to voters, and that includes voters who have really not been tuned in, voters who don't often see the president, maybe with the exception of in 15 to 30-second clips on social media, and he wants to be able to say there is a binary choice in November, and I am the only acceptable choice.
MJ Lee, important reporting on the president. Let's shift now to Donald Trump. His return here to Georgia, Jeff Zeleny noted a few moments ago, just might hold special significance. It's a state he lost famously by 11,779 votes back in 2020. And it's now where the former president faces criminal charges for allegedly trying to illegally reverse that loss. CNN's Kristen Holmes has been following the former president's last-minute preparations. Kristen, what message does Donald Trump want to bring to the stage tonight?
Well, look, we're in a very significant time right now, John, as we have said over and over again, because it's the first time you have a former president and a sitting president up on that debate stage. And the message they want to send, Donald Trump wants to send, is that your life was better under my administration than it is under Joe Biden's. Now, whether or not he can actually get that across remains to be seen. But they want him to do this by focusing on three things in particular: the economy and inflation, immigration, and crime rates, because recent polling shows that that resonates with voters when it comes to Donald Trump.
I'm going to go voters first here. That's my perspective, just from my nice new job. I get to travel the country. Issue number one is almost always the economy in a presidential race. So let's call it the economy. A lot of people talk about inflation. I want you to listen to these voters from several different of the battleground states. For them, it's a cost of living issue. Even those who support Biden say things are tough.
Gas prices are still pretty high. Food, when you go to the grocery store, every time it's just me and my wife, and it's $200 every time I go to the grocery store.
I'm buying diapers. I, was buying formula. The gas prices. I've done some things to change the places where I shop.
Everything here in Georgia is so expensive. I can only afford so much, with whatever job I find.
Are your day-to-day costs the same now as a year ago?
Oh, no. They're higher.
Hell no, they're higher was the point at the end. Is there anything the President of the United States brings to the table tonight, anything new he can say to get at that? He sometimes gets himself in trouble by saying, hey, the numbers are great, the national numbers are great. People out there in America don't feel that.
When you talk to folks either in or around the Biden team camp, they have long stated, and I think a lot have seen it covering him over decades. You're the decades guy. We're just a couple of years.
Touche.
Yeah.
Point set, Mattingly.
People like Joe Biden when they see him. It was always kind of his superpower before he got to the White House. He has a level of empathy that connects with people that was long considered his strongest position, the strongest thing he brought to the table. Connecting back on that front. they've had very difficult times trying to get him to separate both those top line numbers, but also his belief that people don't understand his accomplishments. They don't understand what his administration has done. He's frustrated about the lack of credit that he's gotten. How are you able to kind of thread those two things together? But I also think when you talk to them, a Democratic advisor told me earlier this week, there's a frustrating amount of collective amnesia that they've been trying to break through over the course of the last. How do you show that Donald Trump is chaos? How do you show that Donald Trump remind people of why they didn't want him in 2020? Can they do that? Can Joe Biden needle him into not being disciplined, not caring about the mute button, not caring about any of that type of stuff? I think it's a dual track effort here.
Voters don't care about who's yelling at who or the hectoring. Voters care about what they see in their daily lives. Yep. And I was talking to Mariama Davis. She's a manager at a boutique here in Atlanta. I've talked to her a couple times throughout the course of the Biden administration. She likes Joe Biden. I said, are things better off for you today than they were 4 years ago? She paused. She's like, well, it's not worse. But that is not a winning message for the Biden campaign. So overall, one of the fascinating things to watch will be President Biden talking about his accomplishments. Sure, people care if the roads are fixed and other things, but they want him to sort of say his version of feeling their economic pain. But this record, or this debate tonight, it's about his record.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference from 4 years ago.
And so let's listen to a piece of that. The American people tonight will get to see the last 3.5 years of their life, President Biden, and the 4 years before that, President Trump, standing right there. It's never happened in any of our lifetimes. It's never happened. And so here's how lately they've been talking about the economy. Again, the president upbeat, his former president saying things are bad and it's his fault.
We have literally the strongest economy in the world right now, in the whole damn world. Remember, Trump had infrastructure month for 4 years, didn't build a damn thing.
I mean, we had the greatest economy ever, and he's got an economy that is so bad with inflation, no matter what happened, you can never override. Inflation is a country buster. It has been for hundreds of years. You go back to Germany of old, it's a country buster, and it's busting our country, and it's destroying our people.
Mattingly teed it up, so I'm going to take the bait. People say, what campaign does this remind you of? I go back a ways. This reminds me of 1992, where George H.W. Bush was president. We had had a mild recession. The numbers were a lot better, but people didn't feel it. Their legs were tired. In this case, right now, 2024, tired from COVID, tired from cost of living. You look at the data all the time. You do the focus groups all the time. I know you're a Republican, but if the president's going to convince people I'm on your side and I'm trying to fight for you here, and I know it's tough, what's the language change he has to make?
Well, what he has to focus on is the fact that even though he wants to paint Trump as Mr. Chaos, and that is a label that Trump has been willing to embrace for many, many years, Trump is going to come tonight and try to say, no, it is actually Biden who is the one who is not in control of things. You saw that ad that we showed the little bit of a clip of. You see images of things like the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, et cetera. That is going to be, both in terms of style and substance, what Trump is going to try to convey. That Biden, when in charge, promised he'd be the adult in the room, and whether it's the economy, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's immigration, all we've gotten is more chaos over the last.
Well, and that's where the Trump campaign feels the most confident going into this, is on the economy. Yes, they're worried that Trump will talk about his grievances, his vow to get retribution, January 6th, and pardoning the rioters there, his own criminal conviction. But on the economy and on this issue, they feel the strongest. And to underscore Jeff's point, 4 years ago, yes, Biden had a record as a senator and as a vice president, but he had not been in charge of the country. Now he has, and voters have also had 4 years of distance from the Donald Trump chaos. And so that is what they are walking into this with, and where the tables have turned so much in those 4 years.
If President Biden tries to lecture the American people into saying this economy is good, as he sometimes has done on the trail, I don't think that's going to work. We know kind of consistently through data, through our own reporting, that that's not how folks feel, to your point about prices. But, call me crazy. I think President Trump has a lot of pressure on him tonight to actualize that message, because the biggest impediment to him really focusing on Biden has been himself. If he focuses overly on those grievances, if he gets tied in to the kind of a Donald Trump MAGA show rather than a clear, consistent attack on President Biden's administration. And so I think, for Trump, there is a chance here to really speak to a coalition of people who are dissatisfied with President Biden. But that has to come through a message that is policy-driven, and that has to come through a lessening of a chaos that could remind people of the 4 years that did not serve Donald Trump in the first place, the reason he's not in the office right now.